These are our men. The Parker Watch Company and its dealers throughout America dedicate this program to the United States Treasury Department for the sale of war bonds. With Ralph Bellamy as our special guest today, we proudly present the third in this series of dramatic programs, These Are Our Men. In the fight for total victory, these are our men. Arnold, Nimitz, MacArthur, Vandergrift, Wainwright, Halsey, Patton, Clark, Somerville, Bradley, Martin. Today we give you the Supreme Commander of the Allied Invasion Forces, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. General Eisenhower's story will begin right away, but first let me steal 15 seconds to introduce our guest bond salesman, star of radio, stage, and motion pictures, Ralph Bellamy.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Jack, for stealing those 15 seconds. I'm going to use a few of them to say that I'll be back later on in the program with a little story of my own. Meanwhile, make a mental pledge to buy another bond today.
Incidentally, listeners, where do you keep your war bonds? Lying around a desk drawer someplace in an old teapot? Remember, they're valuable, extremely so. You should keep them all together where you'll always be able to find them. And to make this easy for you, we have an offer to make. I'll tell you all about it at the end of the program. Right now, listen to the authentic profile of another of our men. December, a year ago. The historic conference at Tehran is drawing to a close. The eyes of all the world are on the three men who ponder decisions that will affect the destiny of all mankind. Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin. Marshal Stalin speaks through an interpreter.
Gentlemen, Marshal Stalin wishes to say that the date you have selected for the opening of the front in Western Europe is quite agreeable to him.
Splendid.
Только один вопрос.
Да, товарищ маршал?
Сначала я хочу знать имя человека, которого они выбрали командовать вторжением.
Хорошо, товарищ маршал. However, the marshal wishes to know the name of the man you have chosen to command the invasion.
Why, Mr. Roosevelt and I are agreed on General Dwight Eisenhower.
Они выбрали американского генерала Dwight Eisenhower.
Прошу передать, что я доволен их выбором, так как нет никого другого, кому бы я выразил больше доверия, чем американскому генералу Айзенхауэру.
Marshal Stalin wishes to say that he is delighted with your selection. There is no one in whom he has more confidence than in the American general, General Eisenhower.
6 months later, June 6, 1944. The beaches of England are crowded with men and machines. Thousands and thousands of tense, nervous shadows waiting in the darkness.
No smoking, no lights of any kind, no smoking.
The men on the beaches and at the flying fields, the bombers and the fighters and the paratroopers and the infantry all wait for the word from one man.
Let's go! This is it!
The broad-shouldered man with a ruddy complexion and the sparse hair paces the wooden floor of the headquarters tent. He half smokes innumerable cigarettes, and he speaks to no one. Because, in a sense, there is no one he can speak to now. He is alone in the great responsibility of leadership.
Lines of anxiety furrow his brow. At his word, thousands of men, hundreds of ships, have set out on the greatest military undertaking in all of history. He smokes, and he paces, and he thinks. What does he think on this day, this D-Day, when Allied forces storm the beaches of Normandy, when the great armada draws close to shore and the guns boom and the men leap from the barges and plunge through the surf into the face of enemy fire? Well, of course, his thoughts are of his men and of his cause. But perhaps other thoughts crowd into his mind. Perhaps he thinks of his son, John. His son, who this very D-Day is graduating from West Point, as he himself did many years ago. Who can say what thoughts filled the mind of four-star General Dwight D. Eisenhower that D-Day, June 6, 1944? Does he think back through the years, through the long years back, yes, centuries back, when another Eisenhower said,
We must leave.
Leave Germany. How can we leave Germany? It is our home, the only home we know. Where can we go?
Any place is better.
It's true that things have been bad here, but to leave, it seems like such a big thing. To go away forever.
It is a big thing. Very big. To stay here means that we cannot live and think and worship God as we believe. We must be free. Else, what good is living? My mind is made up. We go. It may be hard, but we will be free.
If you say go, I go.
Did four-star General Dwight D. Eisenhower think of them that morning of D-Day, June 6, 1944? He might well have, for those were his ancestors who left Germany centuries before because they rebelled against religious persecution. They left to be free, and now their own flesh and blood was coming back to Germany in the cause of the same freedom for which they left it. He paced the wooden floor of a headquarters tent on the coast of England and waited for the first report. This was his plan. He had given the word, and on that word hung the lives of men and the fate of the cause of freedom.
No word. No word of any kind?
Nothing, sir.
More cigarettes, half smoked and stamped out. Deeper furrows in the brow. The weight of leadership bearing heavily on the broad shoulders of General Dwight D. Eisenhower. What thoughts crowded into his mind? Did they go back to Kansas, perhaps? To the town of Abilene? And to one of the best friends of his youth, Six McDonald?
Thanks very much, sir.
What do you say, Six? Any luck?
Nah, the school can't help us, Ike. Looks like the end of the team.
What'd they say?
Same thing. There's no money in the athletic fund.
But we're supposed to play over at Chapman tomorrow. We've got to get the team there.
I know. I told the principal that, but he just said he was sorry. There's no money for the railroad fares. I guess we'll have to call the game off, Ike.
No, we won't.
The team can't walk to Chapman, Ike.
No, but there ought to be some way of getting there. Doggone, I'll figure something out.
We'll have to do it by tomorrow morning, Ike. What's the idea, Ike? Getting the whole team down at the depot.
We're going to Chapman, Six. Hey, here comes our train now.
How'd you do it, Ike? I thought they wouldn't give us any money.
Leave it to me, Hank. All right, fellas, here she comes.
Listen, Ike Eisenhower, let me see the ticket.
Who needs tickets? This is our train, fellas. Everybody down the track. Let's go.
Down the track? What's the idea? Hey, Ike, come on, Six. All right, everybody, down the track. Hey, Ike! This is the freight train. Sure, I know, but it goes to Chapman, doesn't it? Pile on, fellas!
And so the football squad of Abilene High rode a freight train to Chapman, Kansas, won its game, and rode a freight train home again. And Ike Eisenhower had solved his first problem in logistics, the fine art of getting men and materials to the scene of action.
No, sir. No report yet.
Perhaps he thought of that early problem of logistics as he paced the floor that morning of D-Day, June 6, 1944, as he awaited the outcome of the greatest logistic gamble ever undertaken by any military leader in the history of the world. And who knows, he may have thought of a decision he made on a hot summer day long years ago, a decision that had started him on his way to this headquarters tent on this fateful day.
6, I've been thinking.
Yeah, Ike? What about?
About the future. I've been out of high school a year now, and all I've done is knock around at odd jobs. Helping Dad at the creamery and stuff like that. Not getting any place.
Ike, you can't get very far in just 1 year.
I know, but I'd like to get started. 6, how about you and I trying for Annapolis or West Point?
Where'd you get that idea?
I've been reading about it. They're holding the examinations at Topeka in the fall.
We wouldn't have a chance.
If we started studying now, we would. 6, how about it?
Nah, not for me, Ike.
It means 4 more years of football, 6.
I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in the Army for 4 more years of football.
Well, what about the Navy?
Or the Navy, either. No, Ike. You try it if you want to.
I think I will.
Good luck. Hey, which one, Annapolis or West Point?
Well, I like the idea of the Navy, but then I don't know. Maybe. Hey,
What?
I think I'll try for them both.
Say, hear about the Eisenhower boy?
Which one?
Ike.
Well, what about him?
Goes up to Topeka, takes the examination for Annapolis and West Point, and what do you think?
What?
Finishes first in the Annapolis exams, second in the one for West Point.
Well, I'm not surprised. That boy's shot.
Yes? Oh, hello, Sid.
Hello, Mrs. Eisenhower. Is Ike... is Dwight at home?
Yes, he's home. Come in.
Boy, I bet he feels good. I just heard about the exams.
No, I'm afraid he doesn't feel very well. Dwight?
Yes, Mother.
6 is here.
Oh, hello, sir. Congratulations. I ran over just as fast as I could. Put her there, Admiral.
Admiral. I'll never be an admiral.
Oh, now don't feel too bad, Dwight. It just wasn't meant to be. The pies are about ready now.
Yes, I guess it wasn't meant to be.
Hey, what's the matter? I expected to find a celebration going on. What's wrong?
I'm not going to Annapolis, 6.
You're not going to Annapolis? What are you talking about? You won the competition, didn't you?
Yeah, I won the competition.
It's his age, 6.
Huh?
You can't go to Annapolis if you're over 20. And Dwight will be 21 in June.
Somebody forgot to tell me that little item.
Now, don't fret about it, Dwight.
I'd only finished first in the West Point exams.
What difference would that make?
The age limit there is 21.
Oh, tough luck, Ike.
Come on, boys. How about some nice hot pie?
And so the Navy lost a possible admiral. But the fates that watch over the destiny of the United States Army knew what they were about.
6.
Yeah, what's the matter, Ike?
6, I'm going to West Point.
What?
I'm going to West Point.
Ike, you're out of your head. You can't go to West Point. You didn't win the competition. You came in second.
Sure, I came in second, but you know what happened?
No, what?
The fellow who came in first couldn't pass his physical. Senator Bristow is giving the appointment to me.
Gee, that's great. Now I got to change your title. General, put it there.
Imagine me a general.
And what might have been the other memories as General Eisenhower paced the floor on D-Day? Of those first wonderful days at West Point?
Suck in your gut. Pull in your chin. You're the worst.
Eisenhower, you'll say sir to upperclassman, Mr. Eisenhower?
Yes, sir.
And wipe off that smile.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Eisenhower, report to me tonight after taps.
Yes, sir.
In full dress coat.
Yes, sir.
And even as a plebe at West Point, Ike Eisenhower believed in carrying out an order to the letter.
Come in.
You told me to report in full dress coat, sir.
Oh, yes. Eisenhower.
Yes, sir.
Where are your trousers?
You said full dress coat, sir. You didn't mention trousers.
But of all the memories of West Point, the grind of study, the lighter moments, the football he liked so much, no memory was like this one.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and bear true allegiance to the national government, that I will maintain and defend the sovereignty of the United States, paramount to any and all allegiance, sovereignty, or fealty I may owe to any state, county, or country whatsoever, and that I will at all times obey the legal orders of my superior officers and the rules and articles governing the armies of the United States.
The minutes crawled by that D-Day morning of June 6, 1944. The great armada moved closer to the shore. And in the skies above, the paratroopers waited tensely for the word to jump. And in the headquarters tent back on the coast of England, General Ike Eisenhower paced the wooden floor, waiting for words. It was not a time for memories. Or was it? If it was, certainly this was one of them.
Miss Doud, may I present Lieutenant Ike Eisenhower? You've heard of him, the big football star from West Point.
Oh, cut it out. How do you do, Miss Doud?
How do you do, Ike?
I'll leave you two together. Tell her all about what you did to Navy, Ike.
He's a great kid, Ike. I hope you're staying for dinner, Miss Doud.
No, I'm afraid not. I have an appointment in San Antonio.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, I wonder if I might show you around Fort Sam, Miss Doud.
Well, really, I'm afraid I
It's
can't.
a very interesting place. I have to make a tour of the post anyway. I'd be very happy if you'd...
I'm afraid
It's a very interesting place, Miss Doud. I'm sure you'll find it interesting.
Well, all right, Ike.
Yes, Miss Doud found the walk very interesting. And the lieutenant, too. For not long after, she became Mrs. Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Ein Schiff, Herr Kapitän. Ein großes Schiff.
Was ist sie? Englisch?
Amerikanisch.
Wie heißt sie?
Lusitania.
Lusitania. Sehr gut. Wir haben unsere Befehle.
Aber sie ist doch amerikanisch.
Wir haben unsere Befehle. Achtung, Torpedorohre 1.
Jawohl.
Munition nach England, Lusitania.
Feuer!
It came. The war that Ike Eisenhower had hoped would never come. But once we were in it, he wanted desperately to go overseas. But that was not to be. Destiny was not yet ready for the great rendezvous with Ike Eisenhower. Instead, he was put in charge of a tank training school, training men to man the tanks in France, under a young lieutenant colonel named George S. Patton. But finally...
Mamie.
Yes, dear, I'm here.
Mamie, I've finally got them.
What, dear?
My orders. I'm going overseas at last.
Oh. I know it's what you wanted, Ike. I'm glad for you. When do you go?
November 18th, Mamie. November 18th.
November 18th, 1 week after the armistice. It seemed fate had sidetracked Ike Eisenhower again. Peace again. And what is there for an officer to do in peacetime? Plan. Plan against the next time, however desperately you hope there never will be a next time. Ike Eisenhower was a planner. He continued to work with tanks, lots of tanks now, American, British, French, German. These weapons of the latter days of the war were sure to be all important if war came again. Ike Eisenhower worked out a plan for tanks. There were tanks by the hundreds aboard the landing craft as the great armada drew close to the beaches of Normandy, as General Eisenhower paced the floor of headquarters and waited for the fate of his plan. Perhaps he thought back to another plan, when he was assigned to General Fox Connor to draw up a new plan for the defense of the Panama Canal. If he did, certainly he remembered the prophetic words of his superior in one armchair chat.
They called it the Great War. Historians won't call it great. It was nothing more than a large-scale maneuver.
Do you think there'll be another one soon, sir?
Sooner than anyone thinks. It'll come in Europe and in the Pacific.
In spite of the four-power pact and the disarmament treaty?
They've hastened the next war by a good 10 years.
When do you think it'll begin, sir?
Oh, I don't know exactly. 15, 20, maybe 30 years. Now, you listen to me, Ike Eisenhower. The men of your time at the Academy are going to be the generals in the next war. Get ready for it. Study. Make yourselves strong. Don't overlook a bet. The country will be pacifist up to the last minute. You won't have much to work with at first.
Not a very rosy outlook.
No, but you be ready. I've worked with you for 2 years, and I know the kind of head you've got on your shoulders.
Thank you, sir.
You be ready, Ike, because you're the kind of man that other men will follow and put their trust in. You be ready with a plan.
And he was always ready with a plan, a sound, carefully worked out plan that overlooked nothing. Under General MacArthur, he planned the defense of Bataan. Under General Kruger, he planned the now historic Louisiana maneuvers. He had a plan for the invasion of North Africa, of Sicily, and Italy. And so, when Marshal Stalin, Prime Minister Churchill, and President Roosevelt met at Tehran, they chose this man with a plan. Eisenhower, the man with a plan, waits on the morning of D-Day, June 6, 1944.
Oh, Major.
Yes, sir?
Oh, nothing, Major.
Yes? All right, let's have it. Right.
Well?
It's just a first report, sir. It was badly garbled. As far as they could make out,
Yes?
there seems to be a possibility, sir, that our first assault wave was destroyed.
Go back and check it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it was his plan that had sent them over to crash the coast of France. His plan that had sent them on their way to Germany in the name of the cause of freedom for which the Eisenhower forebears had left it. Yes, the first news is bad. And it was his plan that had been responsible for it all. And he is well aware of it in this terrible moment as he thinks of the thousands of letters he has received from American mothers.
Dear General Eisenhower, I just want you to know how glad I am that my son is serving under you. From all he's written me, I know, General Eisenhower, that you'll send my boy home safe to me. You will, won't you?
Yes? All right, hurry. Right? Right. Right. General.
Well?
An error in the first message, sir. They've got it straight now.
What is it? What's the news?
The first wave has landed, sir. The entire invasion is proceeding according to plan.
Thank you, Stotts Cotsworth, for your narration, and thank you, James Meehan, for a fine performance in the title role in this story of General Eisenhower. And now may I present our guest again. Here he is, Ralph Bellamy.
Thank you. About a half an hour ago, I was on my way to this program, and by mistake, I got into the wrong studio. There was a rehearsal going on there, an orchestra and a girl. The girl was singing a number I know you'll be hearing many times in the days ahead. I'll Be Home for Christmas. Of course, I'm not much of a judge of songs or singing, but despite the fact that I was in a hurry, I couldn't help waiting to hear that girl sing the song all the way through. Why, I don't know. Maybe because the song is so pretty, or maybe because it's so sad and so true. I guess you all know how it goes. Yes, that's it. I'll be home for Christmas. I guess you get my point. They won't be home for Christmas. Not this year, and maybe not next year either. Unless we help them to the utmost of our power. Let's not kid ourselves. The Japs and Germans are dug in for a last-ditch fight. Dug in good. It's going to take plenty of shells and plenty of bombs to blast them out with their hands above their heads in surrender. We at home provide those bombs and shells through our purchase of war bonds. Naturally, the less ambition that reaches the fronts, the less ammunition that reaches the fronts, the longer the war will take to win. The longer it'll be before a lot of lonely men come home. It's just that simple. When you buy bonds, you make a foolproof investment. You also help to stave off inflation. But most important of all, you help to bring nearer the time when millions of mothers and wives and sweethearts will open a telegram that really says, I'll be home for Christmas.
Thank you, Ralph Bellamy. These are Our Men, featuring today the dramatized story of General Dwight Eisenhower, with Ralph Bellamy as our special guest, is presented each Saturday by the Parker Watch Company and its dealers throughout America, but not to sell watches. No, what we ask you to buy is bonds, plenty of them. And when you can't buy bonds, buy war stamps. Now, a special announcement. We are currently preparing a beautiful combination book portfolio for our listeners. It's in 4 brilliant colors, with the pictures and biographies of all the great American leaders being dramatized on this series of programs. And in addition, this portfolio has a place for the safekeeping of your war bonds, as well as a handy chart for entering the registration of your bonds. It's yours for 10 cents to cover cost of mailing and wrapping. Address your letter to the Parker Watch Company, care of NBC, New York 20, New York. Write today and close 10 cents in coin only, and we'll send you your copy of our new combination book portfolio entitled These Are Our Men. Next week, These Are Our Men will bring you the story of General Henry H. Arnold, with Paul Muni as our special guest. So be sure to tune in. Same time, same station. Our music was composed and conducted by Joseph Chernyavsky, and the entire production was under the direction of Anton M. Leader. Much of the material in this broadcast is contained in the new biography of General Eisenhower, General Ike, written by Alden Hatch and published by Henry Holt and Company. These Are Our Men is recorded by the Office of War Information for shortwave rebroadcast to foreign countries. Don't forget now, for your copy of our new combination book portfolio entitled These Are Our Men, send 10 cents in coin only to the Parker Watch Company, care of NBC, New York 20, New York. This is Jack Costello speaking.
This is the National Broadcasting Company.